episode of Sugarfolk Homemade that is not a knitting podcast. This is the first video on my channel that I'm not talking about all of my knitting, but instead I've asked you guys to ask me some questions that I can answer, and we can kind of get to know each other that way. This, first of all, is my little kitty Maggie. I've been promising to show her, and every time I either can't find her, or last time she was sitting directly where I looked and I didn't see her somehow and I didn't show you guys, but this is her. Hey, she's a little bit feisty. She's still a kitten, so, you know, but this is Magnolia. Hi. She's very sweet. She's just very, very playful and a little bit crazy. So, if you are new here, my name is Michaela, and you have joined at the perfect time because we're gonna dive into some fun facts and things about me. So, it's kind of like we're meeting for the first time. And for those of you returning, sorry, I've got my computer over here. For those of you returning, welcome back. Thank you for all of your questions on my last video. Really, just the comments in general were amazing. I can feel the love from you guys. And there I go with the still working on that. But Laura from Penrose Knits actually recommended me in her latest podcast. And so a lot of you guys came over from her channel and said hello and subscribed, and it's just been amazing. My last video was me talking about how I just hit 1,000 subscribers, and I was so excited because it's been almost 2 years since I started this, and already it's up to like 1,600 or something, and that just blows my mind. So thank you guys, and thank you for all of your lovely comments. I read every single one. I usually try to respond to all of them, but the comment section was pretty large last video, so I didn't get around to responding to every single one, but I do read everyone. So if you feel led to leave a comment, I love to read them, so thank you for those. And this is probably going to be a longer video, so buckle up and grab something to sip on. I've got some more tea in this mug that says warm and cozy. This is a turmeric tea. I believe it has like cardamom and rooibos tea in it. It's very good. It's very, I'm not gonna say spicy, but it has like a spice to it. Not like a hot spice, but a warm and cozy spice. And of course I put pumpkin spice creamer in it because it just makes it that much better. And I will probably try and knit a little bit as I'm talking, but I'm not that great at knitting without looking. So if it's too much, then I won't do it. Also, I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So if you hear little dings, it's most likely my husband. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip of this and we will jump right in. Before I get started on the questions, I will tell you guys what I'm wearing real quick because I did make this. This is my Tunisian tank, and I meant to look and see who the designer was before I started filming, and I totally forgot. But I will put a link in the description. This is a crocheted top, and it's just a tank. Pretty low, well, not super low, but when I don't have a shirt on under it, you can see my bra in there, so it's a little bit low. And then there's a little keyhole back, and it is cropped. This is the second time I've worn it as a vest. I never really thought to wear it as a vest until recently. Vests have been very trendy, and so I looked at it in the closet one day and I thought, that could be a vest. And lo and behold, I have multiple things that match it perfectly, such as this dress, because the little flowers are a perfect match. So yeah, that is my Tunisian tank. It's a different style of crochet, different technique. It's Tunisian crochet, which is pretty interesting. I don't remember how to do it now because it's been a while since I made this, but it was very easy to figure out, and this crocheted up very quickly. Okay, so first question, and I'm gonna get my knitting up in my lap. I'm working on my all-day sweater, which I've talked about in many episodes of my podcast. I'm nearing the very end of the last sleeve, so it is almost finished. Okay, first question is from Sarah Hart. She said, congratulations on 1,000 subscribers. Thank you. I'd love to know how you got into knitting and if there are other crafts that you do. So I have crocheted since I was very young. I don't even know how old I was, but my grandma taught me. And I kind of just kept the trade. Like I would pick up something to crochet every now and then. And then I got real into crochet when my second daughter was born, and I started to crochet things that I would sell. And that's when I coined the name Sugarfolk Homemade. I would use that to sell various things that I would crochet. And then when COVID started and the lockdowns happened, it didn't affect me much at all because I had a newborn, and not a newborn, he was about 3 months old at that point, but we stayed home all the time anyways because I had 3 kids under 3 at that point, and taking them out of the house was crazy. So, what was I? Totally forgot my point. Oh, so I just saw that everybody else was like picking up new things to learn, and so I picked up knitting. I had always wanted to knit because I really liked the look of it, especially in garments, because crocheted garments sometimes have too stiff of a texture and there's like no drape at all. So I was really excited to try knitting, but I was always intimidated by it. And then finally, I think my husband may have had to stay home for a while too. I don't remember. And so maybe I had extra help with the kids, and that's how I had the energy to put into it. I'm not quite sure. But I watched a video, probably. No, I think the very first thing I did was I just bought a pattern. And it was a pair of overalls for the baby. And I just kind of went row by row, and when I got to something I didn't know, I watched a video. And that's still what I do. I don't know a lot of techniques, but if I like a pattern, I'll buy it or I'll download it. And then when I get to that part, if I don't know what it means, I'll just go figure it out. So that's how I got into knitting, and I've been absolutely hooked ever since. And as far as other hobbies, this says if there are other crafts that you do. So I guess crochet would count as that. And I do sew a little bit. Not the best at it, but I do like to do it every now and then. I'm actually in the process of filming a sewing vlog while I work on a dress that I'm currently sewing, So as far as crafts go, that's really it. I wish that I could paint, but I don't have the eye for that. So I do have this really large paint by number that I bought years and years ago. The paint has since dried out. It's huge. Like, it's a big canvas piece of paper, and the little sections that you paint are so tiny, and it's a beautiful, beautiful picture. So I've kept it, and I really want to finish it one day, but all my paint has dried up, and so I need to go to Hobby Lobby or something, which I've been multiple times and I just forget, and I need to match the paint colors and get some more, because I would love to finish that and hang it in my home if I could find a place for it. My house is very decorated, I will say. I don't have a lot of room for anything else. Okay, so let's see. You'll have to bear with me as I'm looking through the comments. I thought about going through and just writing them all down to have on a piece of paper, but then I remembered that I have a computer or a laptop. It doesn't work that great, but I figured I would just do that and go through the questions, save me some time of like handwriting every question down. Okay, this is from Lisa Petit, and she said, what is your dream yarn and what would you knit with it? So this is an interesting question because I'm not very well versed on all the different yarns out there. I've learned quite a bit just from watching other podcasters, but I feel like it's one of those things until you've like held it in your hands, you just don't really know. And I honestly haven't even looked up many of the yarns that I would like to use that might be too expensive for me. I just kind of assume that they are. I don't know. Like, anytime I read a pattern or like I buy a pattern, I just always assume that the suggested yarn is out of my price range, because it usually is. And that's totally fine. I just look at the weight and I go by that. But there is a particular yarn that I would love, and that is the Spin Cycle. I want to say they're like Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool or something. It's something like that, and it's specifically I would like it to knit Andrea Mowry's Shifty sweater, or the Night Shift cowl or shawl. Shifty, I forget all the names, but it's the Shifty something, and it's the sweater or the shawl I would make. They're beautiful, and I feel like those yarns just are perfect for it. I don't know what else I would knit with those yarns, but they're very expensive, and that is something that is on my wish list. Maybe I'll get there one day, who knows. There is some other yarns that I would like to try, such as, I'm blanking. Oh, the Lopi yarns, like Alaphus Lopi, Let Lopi. I think there's some more, and I don't think those are too pricey. I just haven't come across them yet. And if I did ever get my hands on that, I would most likely knit a pattern from Fiber Tales, because I feel like she has a lot of rustic patterns, and I think she uses a lot of Lopi yarn. I could be wrong, but I feel like that would be a nice pairing. There was another one that I thought of earlier when I was reading through the comments, and I can't remember it now. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not super big on yarns. I'm very simple. I look at the weight of yarn needed for a pattern, and I go on Lovecrafts. I go to that yarn weight, filter it by the cheapest, and every now and then I'll splurge a little bit, like I did for my Pressed Flowers shawl and my Cowfill shawl, honestly. But for the most part, I just kind of wing it, and it works out for me. I do really like wool, so I try to integrate that sometimes, but I usually end up going with like a wool and acrylic blend because they're usually cheaper. Okay, so kind of answered that question, kind of not, but yeah. Okay. I'm telling you, this computer is very, very slow. It's very old and tiny, so there's like no storage on it, and it just, okay, come on. Maybe I wish there was a way to like sort comments by the ones that have question marks in them. Oh, speaking of comments, I completely forgot about the giveaway, which I did the random comment picker for it. So I meant to bring the yarn and stuff over here with me, but the giveaway from last episode, I did pick a winner, and I will put that over here, a little screenshot. Joan Brown, you have won the yarn and the stitch marker. So I will respond to your comment, and also if you will get in touch with me, I'll respond to your comment, and then if you don't respond, you know what? I'll just put my email address in the description, and then you can email me. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Duh. So, okay. Why can't I find another question? There were so many, and now that I'm like looking through them, not finding any of the questions. Okay, here we go. This is from Diana Bloom. She asked, what is a hobby you haven't tried or haven't done a lot of but would like to? That is an interesting question. So, I really like to bake. And I won't say that I don't do a lot of it because I do. I love to bake sourdough bread. That's another thing I got into when COVID hit. And I've always just loved to bake because I grew up in my grandma's bakery. I mean, I didn't grow up in there, but like my grandma owned a bakery / antique store, and we were there all the time. I used to help her on the weekends. I would work there. And so she just kind of instilled a love for baking in me. And so I love to bake, but I'm pretty simple with baking. Besides sourdough, like sourdough is the one thing that I've like kind of mastered, the one difficult-ish thing that I've mastered. But as far as other baking things, I haven't really branched out and like tried a lot of things on my own. And I would like to. I find that I just don't always have the time. Or the real problem is that I do sometimes have the time, but I would much rather knit or sew or something of that nature. And also I talked about how I would like to paint, but I think I just wouldn't be good at that. Oh, another one would be pottery. I dabbled in a little bit of pottery in high school in my art class, and I found it very fun, and I love the look of a finished pottery piece. I have a lot of mugs that are like I'm just going to say handmade. And I do have a tiny little bowl that I made in high school that I've kept, that I just put like, I think it has some change in there or something. And yeah, I think pottery would be super fun. And quilting, that's another that I would love to get into. I know the basics of quilting. It's just another one of those things like I don't have the time, or I really don't have like the machinery for it because my sewing machine is from the 60s. I'll just say that, and it's old. So yeah, that is the answer to that question. Thank you, Diana. Let's see what else I can find. I'm always so shocked at how slow this computer is. Goodness. My husband keeps saying we need to get you a real computer that you can edit on and, you know, just use that's not slow as molasses. And I'm like, oh, the one I have is fine. It's fine. It's not fine. It is so slow. As you can see, because it's taking me forever. Okay, here's one. This is from Yarn Witch. She wants to know my favorite fibers and blends and my favorite splicing method. Okay, so as far as favorite fibers and blends go, I have to say that oh man, what is the word? The yarn that I use for my cowbill shawl, Juniper Farms, Harriet something, I don't know the order of the names. It's baby alpaca, and it is the softest thing ever, and the drape is absolutely stunning. I love it. I spent like $65 on yarn for that shawl, and I don't regret it one bit because it is so luxurious. I also really like acrylic / wool, like a blend, because you get the properties of wool, but you get the properties of acrylic. It's not as scratchy as just wool. I am a little sensitive to wool, so yeah. And I also really like bamboo as far as plant fibers go. It seems really soft to me. I like it. I don't love cotton. I have a few cotton things, and they're fine, but I probably won't knit with cotton for a while. And okay, favorite splicing method. I actually don't have one because I have not yet done that. I'm assuming by splicing Isn't that like your yarn breaks and you got to put it back together? I think. And that has happened to me actually before with a rustic yarn that I had, and I tried the method of like spitting on it. I know that's gross. Spitting on it and rubbing it together, the friction to make it join back together. And it didn't really work that well. Like it did for a second, and then I just pulled on it a tiny bit to knit and it came undone. So I ended up just like unknitting a few stitches and then just starting a new piece of yarn. So yeah, if there are other methods, I'd love to hear them, because when that happens, and even whenever I run out of yarn from one ball and I need to go to the next, I just leave the tail hanging, start a new one, and then I go back in and weave them in. I don't do any kind of like joining method of the two yarns. I know there's a method where you can like take apart the plies and join them pretty seamlessly, but it seems like a very tedious thing to do, so I just leave them hanging and then I weave them in. All right. Tina Fisher asked, how long have you been knitting and who taught you? So I kind of already answered this, but I've been knitting now for almost longer than 2 years, because I started when COVID started, which was March, April of 2020. So 2.5 years basically. And I taught myself. Well, the internet taught me really, because I would have never just like figured it out. But the internet, YouTube taught me how to knit. Cassandra Childs asked, what's your favorite brand or type of yarn? That kind of goes back to the like favorite fibers and blends. I wouldn't say that I have a favorite brand, because I don't know that I've ever even bought the same brand twice. Besides like Patton's Croy sock yarn and West Yorkshire Spinners sock yarn, I've bought a couple like repeats of those, but everything else I have only bought one time. I'm still, since it's only been 2 years, I am still trying out different things on every project basically, and I'm kind of learning what I like and what I don't like. So I don't really have a favorite yet. My favorite, like as far as what I use the most, like what I've used the most of the whole time I've been knitting, is Superwash Merino, because it's pretty easy to get your hands on. It's not super expensive, and I like the way that it wears. It feels nice. So maybe I would say that, Superwash Merino. I know a lot of people don't like Superwash. I don't really know why, but I like it, so. You know what's so funny? I make a cup of tea, and it tastes fine, but my husband usually makes my tea. Every night he starts the teapot, and he makes my tea for me, and he knows how I like it better than I know how I like it. He does a better job. Mine doesn't taste like it does when he makes it. Okay. Going through these comments, you guys are so sweet. Everything you guys said just warmed my heart. I actually texted my husband this morning when I was going through comments, and I said, I could literally cry at the comments. Everything is so sweet. Looking for another question. Okay, here's one. Nitty6 asked, how old are my kids? So my kids are, my oldest is Porter, he's 5. The next one is Rosie, she is 4. And the last one is Sammy, and he will be 3 in December. So they're all back to back. Oh, this is actually from the winner of the giveaway, Joan and Kevin Brown. I'm assuming it's Joan that has commented, but I could be wrong. What are the paint colors in your dining room? So I'm assuming this is talking about over here, the white and the blue. And I actually was just downstairs in my basement before I came up here to film. And I went down there to put the laundry in the dryer, and to look at the paint cans to see what the paint colors were called, and I completely forgot to do that. So when I'm finished filming, I will go back down there and look at the paint colors, and I will insert them in this area. These colors actually go all the way into my kitchen. I have the top cabinets painted white, and then the bottom cabinets are painted blue. I have a lot of fun with our home decor, and I change things up a lot. All right, Catherine Kirby asked, what is your favorite knitted project? That's a little tricky. You know, I think I'm gonna have to say my cowbell shawl. I love that thing. It is just so soft. I wore it yesterday actually, and someone commented on Instagram about how lovely it was, and I said, I know, I think it's my favorite. And I really do think that it is. I just love it. It goes with everything because I chose a neutral color. It's beautiful. Gabriella designed that pattern, and it is just breathtaking. I love it. By the way, Gabriella is from Merriweather Knitting, and if you don't subscribe to her, you totally should. She is so sweet, and I feel like me and her are friends, even though I've never met her. She's on a little bit of a hiatus because she just had a baby, but I think she'll be back sort of soon, so be sure to go check out her channel. Maybe you can catch up on her videos in the meantime until she's back. Marcel Wells asked which podcasts I like to watch. And I don't watch many podcasts, mainly because I don't have a lot of time to watch TV in general. Every now and then I'll get hooked on a show, and I will spend every second of my free time glued to the TV. But I do like to put on podcasts in the mornings after we finish school. I do homeschool my kids. Well, right now it's just the oldest because he's in kindergarten. So we do school in the morning, and then I like to sit on the couch and knit while they play, and can't really watch most TV these days with kids around because it's too much. But I do like to watch knitting podcasts while they're awake and just playing. So the ones that I always keep up with are Noble Character Crafts. That's Amy. I love hers. And Ruth from Ruth Loves to Knit. Love her as well. She's very joyful and very fun. Gabriella from Merriweather Knitting. Now I have discovered Laura from Penrose Knits after she shouted me out. I don't know how I'd missed her podcast. She's amazing. I've been binge watching hers the past 2 days. And there was another one that I had in my head. Oh, Little Monkeys and Me for Nanda. She's a sweetheart. I love her color choices of her projects. And I watch Andrea Mowry's question and answer videos. I feel like I learn a lot just from listening to her answer knitting-based questions. And so far, I think that's really all that I keep up with regularly. Every now and then I'll turn on a different one, or I'll catch up on someone else. But those are my top podcasts. Let's see. Samantha Schlegel, I hope I did not butcher your last name, asked, how do I carve the time to do my knitting? Is it a particular time of day and a certain amount of time? We all lead busy lives. How do you fit it in? So knitting is one of those things that, unless it's a complicated pattern, it just reminded me that I could be knitting right now. Unless it's a complicated pattern, you can kind of just do it all the time. Like when we're doing school in the mornings, I knit. It's when I usually work on socks, or I've been working on this sleeve while we do school because it's stockinette. And I wake up early in the mornings before the kids, and I usually have about 30 to 45 minutes of just quiet time. And in that time, I'll pick up something to knit, and then I get the kids up, we have breakfast, I babysit another little girl, so she comes in, she has breakfast, and then when they're all done, I usually will knit for like 10 or 15 minutes while the kids are getting dressed and things like that. And then we do school, and I knit while we do school. Then after that, if I have any chores that need to be done, there's usually laundry and dishes. I do those first so that they're out of the way, and then I'll sit down and knit until about lunchtime. Thankfully, my kids are really good about keeping themselves busy, and they just love to play. So, you know, I'm in the living room, I'm right here. Our house is pretty small, so they're never like out of my supervision. And they just play and I knit, and we have lunch. When they nap, I knit. Basically, I just knit anytime that I can. And sometimes I'll knit in the car if we're going on a drive. We do like to take some Saturday drives when my husband's home. When we have like a lazy Saturday at home, we like to go out and just drive around and look at the mountains, and we are tourists in our own town, basically. So yeah, I asked my husband yesterday or the night before, it's like, what did I do before I started knitting? Like, what did I do with myself? Because I feel like I spend so much time knitting now that I can't imagine what I used to do during that time before. And granted, this is the first time in many years that there has not been like a baby in our house. And babies take a lot of time. I guess that's why I have more time lately, really, because all the kids are getting older and a little bit more independent. And I just have more time. And there are periods of time when I kind of go through like, I'm not in the mood to knit, but here lately, the past few months, I am like ultra motivated. I want to knit every second of every day. I actually have to take breaks because a lot of times my elbow will start to hurt. I have arthritis in one of my knees from when I was a kid, and I think that I've just kind of held on to it, and I think if you already have it, you're like more likely to develop it in other areas. I don't know. And when my elbow starts to hurt, it feels very similar to the way my knee feels whenever it is acting up. So every now and then I do have to take a knitting break because I don't want to injure myself. And that's how you know I'm doing a lot of knitting. If you're about to injure yourself, you're knitting a lot. So yeah, I just find the time when I can, I pick it up and knit. I don't know. Over time, I've gotten a lot better about being able to knit without paying like super close attention. Because of course, when you first start knitting, you're looking at like every stitch. And just as I've practiced, I've gotten better at doing other things while I knit. I still can't really look away for too long. Like I can watch TV and knit, but I have to look up every now and then. But I can't, or I have to look back down pretty often, but not so much that I can't pay attention to the TV either. So I also knit in the evenings when my husband and I watch TV. Okay, let's see. Naomi Wallace asked, which budget-friendly, lightweight yarns you like to knit with? She lives in Texas, so she would like to have some knitwear that isn't bulky and super hot. Well, stay away from wool because it gets hot. I don't know what Texas's weather is like, if it's like always hot, like Florida, or if it's just really hot in the summer and then not so bad other times. But as I said before, cotton's not my favorite, but I don't really mind it. Like it's fine, especially if it's hot. So a lightweight cotton I don't think is a bad yarn to use if it's really hot, and that's definitely not bulky. I mean, if you go with like a fingering weight, then that's not going to be bulky. Also, your gauge would have a lot to do with whether or not it was bulky, and the looser your gauge, the more airflow you can get. So yeah, if it's just really hot, I would just stick to things with a looser gauge and a lighter yarn, and probably plant fibers, because Well, because wool is warm. I'm not the best person to ask about yarns and things of the such. That didn't really make much sense, but you guys know what I mean. Okay, Tanya Lynn D also asked, I'd love to know how, why, when you started knitting. And I've already went over that. So I'll skip over that one. Kat B also said, could you talk about your knitting story? I already went over that. There's really not, I mean, I wish I had a better, a better knitting story, but really I just thought I would give it a shot, and I did, and I liked it, so. Okay, Katie Caparco said, how did you get into knitting? How did you learn / what inspired you? So the what inspired you part I haven't really touched on. I want to say that I was on Pinterest, probably, because I love Pinterest. And I believe I saw, oh, I know what it was. Okay, so I was looking at baby crochet patterns because I had just, no, hang on, let me back up. When I was still pregnant with Sammy, my youngest, I was working on crocheting him like a coming home outfit. And upon looking for patterns, I don't think I used Ravelry then. I was just on Pinterest, and I kept seeing some knit things, and I would save them and just thought to myself, maybe one day I'll learn to knit. And then finally I just said, I'm gonna knit those because those are cute. Oh, so Lisa H said, your teapot is so pretty. Where is it from? And I believe she's talking about the teapot that is in my intro of my last episode, or my knitting podcast intros. I'll probably use that same intro for podcasts until the season's over at least. But I will show you guys that, if you will excuse me. So this is the teapot she is referring to. It's actually still kind of hot because I just made tea. And it's really dirty. I actually got this at a thrift store, believe it or not. I think it was like $10 or something. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get that. And it was a little rusted, so I thought I wouldn't even be able to use it. But the inside is perfect. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of thrift stores. If you haven't caught on to that already. Let's see. Oh, here's my husband's comment. If you guys ever notice someone commenting, like 2 videos ago he commented, your husband is a lucky man. That's my husband. I don't have a secret admirer or anything. Here's one, and it's frozen. There we go. Okay, Haldo Studios asked, are you a Christian? If so, how did you come to know the Lord? And then she has more questions, but I'll start with that. Yes, I am a Christian, and I think I talked about that before, or maybe I've never just like outright said it, but a lot of you have kind of caught on. Yes, I grew up in a Baptist church in my hometown with my grandma and my dad. And so I just kind of grew up in it. And yeah, but I will say after I got married is when I really took it more seriously, and I got baptized after I got married. And yeah, now we are faithful churchgoers. Not that that's what makes you a Christian, but yeah, the Lord is number one in our lives. And yeah, so how did you come to know the Lord? I grew up hearing it from all sides, so just kind of was always something that I knew. And oh, I hear one of my kids. I think they'll be fine. It might actually be a dog outside. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes. Also, I really hope you guys can't hear the wind. I'm sitting in front of my kitchen door because that's where I get the most light, and it's very windy. It's very cold this week. I love it. She also asked, where do you live? So I live in Western North Carolina. I'm not going to give any more details other than that, just for privacy reasons. But yeah, Western North Carolina in the mountains. It's a beautiful place. Okay, it's definitely one of my kids. I think it's my oldest, and I'm pretty sure he's singing. Did you knit the sweater you're wearing in this video? This is my last video. Yes, I did. It's the jute border crop by Caitlin Hunter. She said, how do you get your video to look like that? The ambiance is beautiful. Did you use a filter or just natural lighting? I think she's referring to my intro of the last video. And I did actually use a filter for that on Instagram. There's this fall filter that I just love. It makes everything look so cozy. And so when I filmed that intro, I did do it through the Instagram filter just because it was a cozy intro and I really wanted that cozy effect. But for the rest of the video and like this, there's no filter. It's just the natural light from outside. Okay, I think that's all the questions. I feel like I'm missing some. Okay, I'm not seeing it, but I know that someone asked how my husband and I met. I think the reason I might have passed it is because maybe it wasn't formed as a question, and I was like scanning looking for question marks. But I know somebody did ask that. I'm gonna have to go tell that child to be quiet. Porter and my youngest, Sammy, they share a bedroom, and it is such a struggle to get them to go to sleep without bothering each other. And I know Sammy was asleep, and I bet now Porter has woken him up. So I'll deal with that later. So anyways, I can't find the question, but I know someone asked how my husband and I met. So we met, I want to say at church, but we didn't formally meet there. So I started going to a church and that he was the drummer for, and like in the worship band, and I just kind of saw him, took note of everybody, you know. It was brand new to the church, so I was just kind of like observing and seeing who everybody was. And then later, my stepdad's best friend, who owns a business, had posted a picture on Facebook of his employees, and John, my husband, the drummer that I had seen at church, was in the picture, and he was tagged. And so I said, oh, that's the guy that was drumming at church. So I added him on Facebook, which is like pretty bold. But I was a lot younger then, and when you're young, you just don't care. So I added him, and he immediately messaged me, and he said, oh, your name's Michaela. I've seen you at church. And then I was like, oh, he's seen me too. And so we both like saw each other at church, and he says that when he saw me, that it was like that's all he could see, and that there was like this light around me. And as sweet as that is, so romantic, I've told him, you know what, I had a pixie cut then, and it was bleach blonde, like in your face bleach blonde. It wasn't toned down or anything. It was just like bright. It was like that light you probably saw was just like the light beaming off of my head. He's like, no. But anyway, so we kind of chit-chatted on Facebook for a couple weeks. And then on February 13th, we hung out. We just went on like a hike. And I think we went for like a drive through the mountains or something. That we did a lot of things that day. We went thrifting, and it was just like a friend hangout, you know. Then the next day was Valentine's Day, and he asked me to be his Valentine. I of course said yes, and that was it. So we dated for 2 years and then we got married, and we have been married for, it'll be 9 years this coming March, which seems absolutely unreal. And fun fact, we still go to the same church. He is still the drummer, and now I'm also on the worship team. I sing for our worship team once, maybe twice a month, and he drums, and he also plays keys, and he can sing. He's a very musically talented person. Drives me crazy. I can ask him, oh, can you play this song on the piano? A song he's literally never heard, can listen to it, and he's like, okay, yeah, cool, let me just play it. And same with like guitar and everything. He has a very talented ear for music. So yeah, that's how we met. We met at church, I guess you could say. We didn't meet in person at church, but that's how we became aware of one another. And yeah, I believe that's all of the questions. Now I'm wondering if I missed some more because I was looking for question marks and not actually reading every comment. Okay, and I think I did do the giveaway already. This angle, I kind of have the camera pointed down and I feel like it's a little bit weird. I don't know. I never remember exactly how I've set it up the previous time, so it's always a little bit different. Okay, so I was trying to think of like some fun facts that I could tell you guys about me. You know my name, told you where I live, told you about my husband and our kids. Oh, so Laura from Penrose Knits, whenever she was recommending me, she said that I live in a cute country little cottage, and that made me so happy because our house is not a little country cottage. That is my dream house. I would love, oh my gosh, like an English cottage. I would die. But that is not what our house is. Our house is like, I call it a tree house because you have to go upstairs, and our main floor is upstairs, and we're surrounded by trees. I mean, we're not like built in the trees, so it's not like a tree house, but it's not a house that I would say is like my style, like my go-to house from the outside. But I mean, when you see a deal, you gotta snag it. And we bought this house right before the market went way up, and it is a steal. So I've grown to love it, and the inside I have put my touch on, and I was very flattered that based on the inside, she thought that I lived in a cottage. So that was my goal, and I guess I've hit that. But yeah, we own our house, and there's really not a lot to know about me, I feel like. Yeah, that's really it. Of course, if you guys ever have like any other questions, you can ask me and I will probably respond. If you don't follow me on Instagram, please go do that. I am active over there on my stories pretty often. I know a lot of you that have just subscribed after Laura's recommendation have gone over to my Instagram because I've seen an influx in followers over there as well, so thank you. And yeah, I guess that's really all I've got for today. I will be filming a knitting podcast next Wednesday, I believe, as long as all goes to plan. And oh, here's a fun fact. Next week, I'm getting one of my teeth shaved down. Doesn't that sound fun? So, one of my front teeth, this one, is actually fake. And when I was in 3rd grade, I ran into a door, a metal door, and I ran right into it, teeth first. It's not all fake, half of it's fake, and knocked half my tooth off. And I've had this same like replacement since then. And when they did it, it's not perfectly even with my other front tooth. And I mean, it's never like bothered me, but it's always kind of been like, that's a little annoying. Like, why couldn't they make it even? And my dentist, I just started going to a new dentist, and he's like, oh, I can shave that down for you if you want. And I was like, heck yes, please. I didn't know that was an option. I didn't know that was a thing we could do. Yes, shave it down. So next week, that's going to be happening, and I'm very excited. So I'll have a whole new smile when you see me next time. Not really. It probably won't even be noticeable. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who even notices the unevenness. That was a bit of a random fact, but there you go. So next Wednesday, I'm planning to film another podcast because I have been knitting my fingers off. This past weekend, I was a little bit sick, and so we stayed home, and I just knit. Like, I think I sat on my couch for, I don't know, at least 30 hours knitting. And I got a lot done, so I have a lot to share with you guys, and I will be filming that next week. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but I am also in the process of sewing a dress that I'm kind of filming the process of, that I will splice all together and make into like a vlog kind of thing. You guys say you're always saying that you guys like the realness and real life. So I figured a vlog would be kind of fun. It's about as real as it gets. And I know you guys love to see my kids, and if they weren't so darn loud, I would film with them out here with me, but they really can be loud. I mean, there's 3 of them, and well, 4 of them during the day because of the extra little girl that I babysit. And it's kind of a madhouse. So yeah, maybe you'll see them in the sewing vlog. We'll see. But also, I'm really sorry if I was barely looking at the camera. Like I said, I have not mastered the art of knitting without looking yet. I think I can do it, but I get too paranoid. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna drop a stitch, and I'm really bad at like climbing the ladder. I'm not bad at it, but it makes me super anxious, and so I just like, if I can avoid dropping stitches at any cost, I'm gonna avoid that. So yeah, that's all I've got for today. I hope you feel like you know me a little bit more. Like I said, there's not really a whole lot to know. We don't do a lot. I mean, we are very introverted, I guess. We just stay home and be a family, and I sit on the couch and knit my fingers off and bake sometimes. That's about all we got. So yeah, I hope this was enjoyable, and I hope I did not ramble too much, and I hope that I didn't say 400 times. Some of you said that I am getting better, so that makes me happy. And thanks for putting up with it. Thank you guys for all of your comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And I will get that giveaway package sent off in the mail probably on Saturday, whenever I can go out to the post office. And yeah, I look forward to catching up with you all on knitting next week. See you then.